Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our second Fireside Chat. We're so excited to have our special guest, Mr. Erick Hunt, with us tonight. Mr. Hunt, how are you doing? How's
I'm
your
doing wonderful. Thank you so much for asking.
Thank
Doing
you so
great.
much for coming for us tonight. We're really excited. As you know, FLOC has a really strong focus on education and college access and college prep. And so part of what our initiative is to really expose students to a variety of careers, to just let them know what's out there, what opportunities they are. And for those who've made it in their lives, how did you get there? Because we all started somewhere. So I'd like to start off by just having you tell us just a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? Where are you from? What were some of your favorite activities when you were a child?
Sure. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
I grew up in a small neighborhood called Prospect Lefferts Gardens.
Mhm.
It's next to Crown Heights and Flatbush. Born and raised New Yorker. And, just some of the things I like to do coming up was I love playing basketball, love sports, having fun with my friends. We would play basketball and like we'd have a hoop. So we use a crate. And so those are some of my fondest memories, coming up in New York City. So
Innovation. We have one, our director of operations is from Brooklyn. So I hear about Brooklyn
nice.
all the time, the Republic. Someone told me a joke once that whenever you're in a room, you can always find two things, a Delta and someone from Brooklyn. And so I'm a Delta, and there you go.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Got everything covered in this conversation. For sure.
Exactly. Done. Check. So when you were a kid, what career did you dream about? And I can tell you what mine was, and we'll see how far left I've gone in life.
All right. So when I was young, I wanted to be a pilot.
Okay.
That was my thing. But didn't, materialize, it didn't end up the way I thought it was, but that was my dream job as a kid.
Really? Now, did you want to fly like commercial airplanes or like for the military or just a plane?
Just commercial more so than anything.
Nice.
But it's any plane, to be
Any
honest.
plane. I'll take it. So my dream job when I was a kid was a figure skater. I grew up in the 80s. And so I used to watch Debbie Thomas, who was the first Black figure skater I ever saw. And it was like my dream. So my aunt used to be a Laker girl. That's my team, the Lakers. And I used to wear her little uniform because it had like the little skirt, and I would go roller skating around the neighborhood pretending I was an Olympic figure skater. So that didn't pan out because I didn't have the coordination for that. So Erick, for many of our high school students, choosing a college is, the most difficult decision they have to make. A lot of our students are first generation. I was also first generation. And so choosing a college, I went to the absolute wrong college at first because I got in. Not because I, should have gone there or did any research. It was like, accepted, here I come. So what advice can you give to our students on how to choose a school, and how did you decide where to go to school for undergrad and then for your graduate degrees?
So I definitely recommend visiting, campus, visiting the site before you attend any, school, assuming it's not online. If you're gonna go to a physical, place, definitely, visit beforehand. But it's a challenge to kind of give guidance because everything is so tailored to what you're looking for. Each person, each individual is trying to, what might appeal to me in an institution may not appeal to someone else. So I can, discuss my process and kind of how I went about things. I ended up going to Boston College for undergrad. And for me, it was important to go to, school. I wanted to, especially I love New York, I wanted to kind of get out of the city, experience different things. That was my motivation. But yet I didn't want to go across country. I didn't want to go too far away because I still had friends from high school, family. And so I wanted to kind of forge my own identity and become myself, learn who I really was. And to do that, I needed to get away at least a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so Boston for me was, about 4 hours away. And so I can get home on a weekend if I really got homesick, but it was far enough away from me to become independent, which was important. And so for me, when I set foot on the campus, I knew that was the place for me. I'm like, it was my dream school. I immediately fell in love with the place, but I was looking in like Philadelphia, New Jersey, DC, Connecticut as well. Not so much New York, just because I was looking to try to expand my horizons. So everyone has to kind of have that look inside themselves, that introspection to say, okay, what makes me happy? What do I want to get out of the experience? Is it going to, a minority serving institution, historically Black college, university? You have to kind of, have that understanding of who you are and what you want to get out of the experience, and let that kind of drive you, would be my recommendation.
Eric, I think you made probably the most poignant point, is that it is tailored to the individual, right? College is not a cookie cutter experience. You have to go to the school that is best for you. So, my freshman year of college, I went to Xavier University of Louisiana. I went because, I was like, oh, HBCU, and, the alternative was the complete opposite. But Xavier is a private school. It was out of state. I'm from California. It's in New Orleans. It's a school for science and math, and I was an English major. And I, again, didn't know anything about FAFSA, student loans, none of that. So $26,000 in student loans later, I left after 1 year because it wasn't a good fit, right? But again, it was like, oh, I had some friends who were going there, and this would be fun. And, but no, you have to go to the place that's best for you. You can't go for the name. You can't go for the location. You have to go for what it is that you need. And so I think your point of, I want to get away, but not too far away. No one's going to Hawaii or California for school. That's too much, right? But I think that choice is really important. And I think that's a lot of the things we really try to instill in our students, is that you have to make the choice that's best for you. And, visiting the campuses is really, really critical. So we do try to encourage that as well.
I couldn't agree with you more, because each campus has its own culture.
Yes.
And I went to a Catholic high school. And so I went to a Catholic university. Now, my high school was Christian Brothers. My university was Jesuit, all Catholic. But having gone to Catholic high school, I felt out of place, but still somewhat comfortable enough to go. Had I not even, let's say, gone to a Catholic high school and I just went straight from public school, let's say, to a Catholic institution, it would have been, it was already culture shock. It would have been complete culture shock. So just being able to, every campus has its own pulse. I think you really have to kind of experience it, because it might be great fit academically, but you're just miserable there. From the social life aspect of it, et cetera. Or the social life is great, but the academics is not an appropriate fit for you. So you really have to do your research, and then kind of, get there and then talk to people, talk to the students, talk to the faculty, and you'll kind of, I get a sense that you kind of will know. You're like, all right, this is the place for me, or I need to move on and try something different and go to experience a different place that might be a better fit for me.
You're telling my story. Xavier was a Catholic university. I did not grow up Catholic. And I remember the first time I went to the service, I tried to grab the cup for communion from the priest, and he was slapping my hand away. I was like, well, how am I supposed to drink this? What's going on? I didn't know. And there was a patch of grass that the Pope had blessed, and no one was allowed to walk on it. And I didn't know, but there's, again,
all these unwritten rules, right? Yeah. How are you supposed to know these things? But it's just, everything has its own kind of vibe to it. And you're like, all right, then after, a few weeks, like, oh, okay, I understand. You don't do this, you don't do that, but it's only, no one's going to, unless you experience it. No one, it's not something you inherently would know. So I definitely know what you're saying. I empathize for sure.
Shenanigans, but the social life, I was all there for that. New Orleans 18, we'll talk about that offline. So yes. Eric, what was your major in undergrad? And if you could also tell us a little bit about how that intertwines with your current career, and kind of tell us a little bit about what you do now.
Sure. So I majored in political science undergrad, and I always was excited and passionate about politics. So I majored in political science. I then went to law school after that, and got my law degree, got my JD. And I would say very early into law school, I was just like, this is not for me. This is not something I really, always was like, oh, when I was really, really small, I was like, oh, I'll be a pilot, that's my kid dream. But, since like high school, I wanted to be an attorney, that was as I got older and mature, that's what I thought I was going to do. But when I got to law school, I didn't like it at all. But I'd already taken out student loans. I'd already moved across the country because I was to law school in Florida. Okay. And I was like, all right, well, I got all the loans. I'm already here, so I might as well just, put my head down and try to finish it. And, that may not be for everyone. Some people might say, you know what, cut your losses, go on something else. And you have to make decisions best for you. So the decision wasn't necessarily right or wrong. It was the one that I made and, I live with. And I'm glad I stuck, even though I didn't want to I hated being a lawyer, didn't want to be a lawyer at all. I'm glad I stuck with it because I got the degree. So I didn't walk away with, tens of thousands of dollars in debt with nothing to really show for it. So I got at least a degree to my name. And, regardless, no one could take that from you once you get that piece of paper. So I graduated law school and I was like, well, I don't want to be a lawyer, but I have a law degree. So what do I do? So I looked for things kind of that were adjacent to the law. And so contracts is, be one of those things. So I was doing a lot of contract negotiation, contract management, contract administration, earlier on my career. And as I kind of did that, another thing tied to the law is compliance and risk management. So then that kind of took on some roles in industry related to that. And then finally, an opportunity came up at my current place of employment and in tech transfer, which is all about getting technologies in national laboratories out into the private sector and the commercial marketplace. So if you think of, let's say, GPS, the internet, all these types of technologies, they started off like in government or the military, and now they're commonplace. So there's stuff that was developed in a lab somewhere, and it was a matter of, oh, this has commercial, broad-based applications. So how do we get that technology off of someone's shelf out into the market? So that's primarily that, and partnerships are probably what I do in my current role.
That's really cool. A lot of our students all of our students are all about technology. It's a different time, different generation. I grew up with a rotary phone, which our kids don't even know what that is anymore. But I think that's really cool because I personally never thought about how we have access to GPS, how we have access to the internet, how we have access to the Google Photos and the geo mapping, which our students learned about before. But I think that's really cool to know that you can have a career in providing that type of technology and information to the greater public. That's really cool. And shout out to you for turning lemons into lemonade, because, that, like you said, could have been a very expensive decision pivot in your life, right? But that you were able to apply that lesson and keep going. And shout out to you for the follow through as well.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah,
that means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, because you gotta stick it out. You gotta figure it out. I used to want to be a lawyer because I was obsessed with Claire Huxtable and I thought I could do it. But then I was told in undergrad to major in English if you were interested in going into law, because the English major gave you, critical thinking and public speaking, all those pieces. But I fell so far in love with literature and books and novels. There was no way. I had no desire to go into law after that. So totally understand that. So Erick, you wear many hats and you have a lot of responsibility. You're an adult, right? Adulting is a whole thing. Keep telling the kids, please slow down, enjoy it while you have it. How do you find balance and find ways to take care of yourself?
Well, thank you for the question. I think every person has their thing. So it might be wake up 5 a.m., go for a jog. You go and you play badminton with your friend, yoga, you name it. So for me, what helps keep me balanced in a pretty stressful environment is I do flotation therapy. And so once a month, I'll go to a float tank, and they have like a salt water. It replicates the Dead Sea, essentially. So they got a bunch of salt. And I just float, try to, for an hour and a half, just kind of clear my mind, and just, just try to relax. And that works for me. I also like to occasionally just jump in a sauna just to kind of, just clear my thoughts, clear my mind. But I think I strongly believe every person has to have like their kind of escape, if you will, just to kind of reset themselves. But those are the things that I try to do to kind of, stay grounded, keep a clear head. And I find that it helps me,
That's so cool. I've never heard of that before. And I'd love to learn more about that flotation situation. Although my hair, I have to think about that. No, I love that you find time, because a lot of times I personally understand, like I feel pressured for self-care. Like you have to do this every day, set a time to do this every day. And it's like, I don't have time every day. I have an organization to run, but I like that doing it once a month, knowing that that is something that you can look forward to, and doing what you need to do to be balanced, I think is really, really critical and an important lesson for all of us. So, but yeah, I do want to learn more about this flotation situation, because that sounds divine. I'm a water sign, so please bring me to the water.
Excellent, excellent.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you have had to handle adversity in your education and your career as you have, just sort of become who you are?
There's going to be a lot of adversity. So you have to understand that, that it's not a linear path. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be challenges. And it's just that you have to just have that resilience and that fortitude to be able to overcome it. And you just have to have that belief in yourself. When no one else seems to be believing, you have to have that confidence. And, I think there's a couple of things that have led to my success, and that's surrounding myself with a great team of people, having friends and a circle of people who have goals, who are about something bigger than themselves, and will support you, have your back, but also be able to tell you the hard truths that can just level what you say. Publicly they'll support you, but then, behind closed doors, to pull you aside, like you kind of off there, maybe you should check yourself or done this a little differently, in a loving way, in a constructive way. But you have to have that team, you have to have that support system and that network. I feel that contributes. And I think the other thing that really helped me kind of overcome some things is that being able to delay gratification. I think that that's so critical. I think and especially in today, everything is instant, like, oh, I want it now. But to say, all right, I want to put aside taking $1 today, but I'll take $2 in a week. And being able to have that vision and that foresight to say, all right, I'm a plan and I'm going to struggle. It's going to be, for the first few years, I'm going to have to go without maybe, but the payoff is down the road. And being able to have that distinction, be able to have to distinguish that, I think it is crucial and critical in success, at least in what I've experienced.
Sacrifice for the greater good is a really important lesson. So I like what you said about having your people, your crew, right? Like the people that you can be yourself with, because in our careers, we have to kind of have the face, right? You have to be poised and all that, but it's good to have people who can tug you aside and say, all right, now, let's get this together, let's tighten this up a little bit. So mentor, do you have a mentor? Are you a mentor yourself? How does mentorship play a role in your life?
It plays a very large role. I've been a mentor. I've had incredible mentors in my life since I was small, since I was little, throughout my career, throughout college, and it's played a critical role in my development personally, both personally and professionally. So I'm a mentor today. I am still mentoring, even though I'm an executive. Even I still have mentors. I still go to people, and I can get coaching from them. I can bounce things off of them, and I think that is so critical that you have that person who can kind of just say, all right, this is the hard truth. I'm gonna tell you something difficult, but you need to hear it. And I'm going to also, at the same time, have that person open up doors for you as well. Because there's a saying that I think 90% of the decisions that are going to affect you, you're not in the room for. So you need someone in that room who could advocate for you and speak up on your behalf. And so that's another important, role that mentors play in coaching you up. If you're weak in a certain area, they're like, okay, I can help you with this, or I know someone, importantly, who can help you with this. And it's all about that network and getting introduced to folks in that way. So mentorship, and it's important that once you have some success that you pay it forward. And that's why I'm a mentor as well. And again, I'm still getting mentored even at this level too. So it's a very important component of success in a profession.
Well, they say looking forward while giving back, right? And so constantly pulling up. So I've just started a program at Howard. It's a certificate program. And one of the quotes that stuck with me was that great leaders build other great leaders. And so I think oftentimes it's important to remember that no matter how far you get in your career, you are only as successful as the people who come behind you, right? And so like building up more leaders to take over, like you want the folks that you're mentoring to be better than you, right? And I think there's a humility in that that's really important. So I'm really happy to hear that you're still mentoring. Mentoring is such a critical role. You always have to be a student of your craft in your career, and just constantly learning and being willing to learn is really important. So happy to hear that. So my final question before we jump into the questions from our lovely students is, what advice or words of encouragement would you give to your high school self around overcoming challenges and working towards your goals?
That's a great question.
You can think about it. That's a big one, right?
Yeah, that's heavy. You're a fellow water sign, so I should have expected this.
Yeah. Let me think.
As I think on it, I think about this. I would, going back in a time machine to my high school self, just say, keep your chin up, keep your head up, and value, people, value, all of the support you've received, value, your family, your friends, and don't allow temporary setbacks to discourage you, because that's all they are, is temporary setbacks. It's you have to play a long game. You can't just look in the short term. So there's going to be short-term difficulty, but don't allow those short-term problems cloud or impact or influence you.
Absolutely. Keep moving, because it is temporary. All right, so I have a few questions that were submitted by our students. We actually have a lot of questions that were submitted, so we sort of compiled. There was a lot of similar questions, so we compiled the overall idea that was being asked. So the first question we have is, if I don't know what I want to do, right, what should I study in college, or how should I approach choosing a major?
So, I really like that question. It's a very challenging question to answer because it's so specific to the individual. But some things you could consider would be, you could take the approach of, what are you passionate about? What really moves you or motivates you? I love politics, so I majored in political science. Liberal arts could be a nice way to start, and you can get kind of a exposure and a flavor of a bunch of things. And then you might say, I took a philosophy course, or a course in art or something. And I discovered, what really motivates me. Mm-hmm. Alternatively, you could also look at, all right, what are some of the majors that have high returns on investment? A lot of the STEM fields are growing. And so that's science and math and engineering, and that's not going away. So that's absolutely. So it just depends on kind of, you want to be, at the end of the day, you want to be happy, right? So I would follow my passion. I would look at, what moves me, what motivates me. But, again, another approach could be just to say, okay, these are the fields that are projected to grow in the future. You look out, 2030, the expected, we'll need maybe doctors, we'll need this, we need that. So STEM also is very promising too. So that's the type of methodology I would use to approach it. If I wasn't sure, I would think about it in those terms to see where that would lead me.
One pro tip I always try to tell students is that most colleges won't let you choose a major your first year or two, because you're supposed to get, and that's sort of the point of community colleges as well, is that you get your general education classes out. So you get exposed to a whole bunch of different things. And if something catches your attention, catches your heart, then that's what you should focus on. So really important, like you said, try what incites your passion and go from there. And you can always change your major. No big deal. So next question is, if I am interested in learning more about technology and transferring technology, what is the best way to get an internship with you?
There's a couple of ways. Our Office of Educational Programming at bnl.gov has a wealth of information on how to go about that. And we're a Department of Energy, a U.S. Department of Energy laboratory. So there are programs within the U.S. Department of Energy as well that, minority serving, primarily internships, things of that nature. So those would be two sources, DOE.gov or BNL.gov would be my recommendations.
We'll make sure to share those links in the chat as well so students can check those out. And the next question is, should I double major?
It depends. There's no harm in that. It certainly can't hurt having, two majors. It's not by all means necessary, but if you're passionate about two different things, then by all means, I would encourage you to double major. But it's not necessarily something that is something that you have to do. It's occasionally it can help, if you have complementary things, depending on what field you want to go into, to have a background in one thing and also a good foothold in another makes you more well-rounded, but you don't have to necessarily double major.
Right. Great. Our next question is, I'm looking for a mentor, but I don't know how to find one. Do you have any advice?
I really like that question. Thank you for the question. That one's a bit challenging. Mentors can come in many different forms. Mentor is someone that could kind of take you under their wing and show you, how to, show you the ropes, show you how to be a professional, and give you the intricacies that you don't know, to your point about the Pope blessed grass, right? How am I supposed to know these things? So that same thing comes up in an office environment too. It's like, oh, I didn't know this. And so it could be someone that at your school, could be someone if you have an internship, could be someone if you have a summer job. It could be a family member. It could be a multiple. So I think you have to be creative of how you view mentorship, mentoring and mentorship. So I wouldn't necessarily be very exclusive as to it has to fit a certain mold. Mm-hmm. They come in all shapes and sizes, and I think if you ask someone, right, that you admire, like, you think about all the people who are successful and you say, all right, what makes them successful and what traits and characteristics do they have? And then you want to kind of copy and emulate that. Say, all right, I want to, what did you do to kind of get to a certain stage? And if you want to just approach a person and say, hey, would you be a mentor? More often than not, they're going to be, humbled. They're going to be really, I think, moved the fact that you asked them to be a mentor. So they would be, I'll be surprised if they didn't agree to mentor you, because being a mentor to someone is an honor. So I would put that energy out there. If there's put out to the universe, say if there's some certain person that you respect, you admire, doesn't matter what field they're in. They could be a entirely different field from what you want to do, but they can still be effective in mentoring you.
I'm sensing a theme here tonight, and I think it's an important theme of things have to be what you need, not what you feel you need or what you're told you need, right? And so I like your point about mentorships can look a lot of different ways. It could be the teacher that sits down with you every day and talks you through with just your life and how you're doing. It could be the formal program that you sign up with the Boys and Girls Club, right? Or FLOC. So I like that, you're really encouraging our students to really do the research, put in the work to what is it that you need, what is it that will help and benefit you, and not, sort of just this overarching, oh, I need an internship and a mentor. Let's go. So fantastic. Final question is, if I am not sure of what I want to do for a career, should I still try to get internships?
Yes, absolutely, because that might be a pathway in which you discover what you want to do for a career. So I would strongly encourage, you can do an internship in a particular field, and it may end up having nothing to do with you ultimately do professionally, but the experience you gain, might be invaluable, and it may open doors into that industry, but maybe other industries. If you work in, let's say, a commercial environment, and you manufacture widgets, okay, you don't want to do anything with widgets, but they have maybe a law firm they use, right? So then that particular company that makes the widgets works for that law firm. You don't want to be working in that company, but they have that connection. And through your internship, you might have met someone, an attorney or whoever, that can, serve as a network, part of a network for you, a bridge. So you never know what opportunities may come out of something that have really nothing to do with ultimately what you were interning for originally. So getting experience in your resume, and getting that exposure for sure is worth it.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, do you have any final words, any last thoughts that you'd like to share with our students before we wrap up?
I'm just honored to have done this. It's great speaking with you. I really enjoyed it, and I just wish all the students the best. I wish them much success. Just hard work. That's 99.9% of this is just hard work. Being in the library, putting the time in, and it pays off. So,
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all of our students and staff for joining us, to our board members who are here tonight. We're really excited to have had Mr. Hunt with us, sharing your wisdom, your good old Brooklyn fired. But we really appreciate your advice and your time. I think, you had a really lot of important points that our students needed to hear. And I learned a few things tonight. So I really appreciate having you. And we look forward to continuing to keep in touch. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's been a real pleasure.